Cabaret heaven, outrageous, seductive, hilarious, and engages the brain as well as the funny bone. These are just some of the fabulous comments that have been made about Fascinating Aida, a female cabaret trio, a mix of Victoria Wood, Gilbert and Sullivan, and think of a sophisticated Roy Chubby Brown. Yeah, I know. But their potty mouth humour is fantastically unique, and they're coming to a theatre near you. They're visiting 37 cities and towns in 2021 alone, and then more to come in 2022. For all the live listings, biographies, etc., you can see everything on fascinatingaida.co.uk. But you know what? Rather than just actually sending to your website, we've actually got something really fantastic to tell you all about it and more. I've got the founder with me, and that's Dillie. Hey, Dillie, how are you?
Hello, I'm very well, thanks. I'm delighted to see you.
And you too. Hey, listen, this has been a long time coming, hasn't it? The last 18 months must have been very challenging, but now you're back. Tell me, what you've been doing for the last 18 months?
Well, it has been quite torrid, Shanu, because my partner's had a lot of losses, which has been very, very tough. He's lost 2 best friends and 2 brothers, one from COVID. And then our lovely Labrador died on top of all that. So it's been fairly ghastly. But what happened when his younger brother died, his younger brother was the landlord of our local pub. And so while we're waiting for probate, we decided, when the lockdown started lifting, the village needed its pub, and yours truly has been running it. So I've become a landlady. Get out my pub.
Fantastic. You'll be taking over the Rovers Return next at this rate. So, but I mean, obviously it sounds like you've had a terrible time, a very challenging time, but nothing's off limits with you guys, is it? I just want to remind people about some of the fantastic song titles: Cheap Flights, Fake News, Funerals, Prisoners of Gender, Big C, Dogging. We are a family show. I've got to be careful what I say on this one. But I guess COVID might come into the act, will it?
COVID, yes, definitely. COVID is making a bit of an appearance. Not too much. I think people are a bit sick of it. You've got to acknowledge that it's happened. You can't get away from that. So we've got one quite wry look at it, which I think will make people laugh, and the odd reference to it throughout the show. It's natural. It's life. Our show's about life, and COVID's happened. But it's not going to be doomy. It's not, it's going to be bearable. What people need is cheering up. Yeah.
So these are all 3 of you together, and it's Liza with a Z, Liza Pulman. We've got yourself, Dillie Keane, and we've got Adele Anderson. Now, you've been together a little while. How long? Just for people who don't know much about Fascinating Aida, can you just explain a little about the history of it and about what to expect if they've never seen you before?
Well, I had these 2 friends I sang with a bit, and I got commissioned to write a song for radio. And they said, do you know any other musicians you'd like to work with? Because, it'll sound a bit thin if it's just you and a piano. And I said, oh, I've got 2 girlfriends I sing with a bit for a bit of fun. They said, oh, that sounds fine. So that was our first gig, was on Radio 4. And we had to find a name. And a friend of ours had come back with a long, tall, rather tedious, but it was one of those stories that grows more tedious every time you tell it. Anyway, basically, his friend had mistaken somebody called Super Olga for Fascinating Aida, and he thought Fascinating Aida was a better name. So we had to find a name for the group in a hurry. So we called ourselves Fascinating Aida, and that was March 1983, and we've been going on and off since then. So that's 38 years.
Wow, that's amazing, isn't it? And you know what? You've managed to actually fill big theatres up and down the country and abroad, everywhere, without a lot of TV and a lot of radio. Why is that?
In some ways, I don't know, and in some ways, I do. Basically, what we do is when we sing, do a show, it's a huge range of topics and styles of song. So that you don't really know what Fascinating Aida is if we just sing one song. So as guest act, we're absolutely hopeless. It doesn't really work because television producers always want the kind of easy, acceptable one, the easy, acceptable song. So years ago, it was Yuppies. And if you thought this Yuppie song was just the typical of everything we did, you were completely wrong, because there was all sorts of other stuff in there. But that was the problem with going on as guests. What we really needed was a TV special. And we have had a couple of those, but not since about 1804. And we'd love to do a special, but listen, it hasn't happened for a very long time, so I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. The great thing is that YouTube has been our special, and YouTube has been fantastic for us.
You've had literally millions of hits as well. I mean, I will looking through some of that. I was trying to find some footage that we could show people, and there is a little that I've got, so we'll play that. But you know what? A lot of this stuff is after the watershed, isn't it?
Oh yes, absolutely. Which is why the Yuppie song, for instance, was such a bad example of what we did, because whilst it sort of was very good about it nailed what we did as sort of socially observant songwriters, it didn't really nail the show. It didn't really represent us, and so the show is very different. The show, goes from hilarious to very, very silly, to really funny but very sharp, and then it goes to kind of heartbreaking, because life is a gamut of emotions, and we always have one song that's guaranteed to break people's heart. People come up to us and say, "I don't know if you're going to do that. You made me cry." But if we don't show our hearts, then it makes the material very heartless, because some of it is really, really tough.
Do you know what it is? On one of the finest songs that of your show that I've seen, it actually refers to Adele, and it's the big C, because she had it, didn't she? But like you said, nothing's off limits, and it's an heartbreaker in one sense, but it's like it always finishes in style of actually lifting your heart, doesn't it?
Well, yes, because she did get well again, and we don't, in the group, we don't talk about battling it or fighting it. It was just she was lucky, and they got her in time, and she has worked out quite hard to get well again. And so I said, listen, this is a song, you've got to do this, because you'll make people feel better. Now, there's always going to be somebody in the audience who says you shouldn't sing that song, because I was sitting with somebody who has it. But the ones who write to us who say you must sing that song are the ones who've got it. So that's actually, funnily enough, not in the show this time. We've got another song for Adele, which is called "Prisoner of Gender," which is a great song, also about her life.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And like we say, do you think COVID will make an appearance? Have you written a special song about it?
Well, we've written a special song that could only have been written because COVID happened, about holidays. I'll tell you no more, because I don't want to spoil the joke, but it's really funny and charming.
Just in terms of people who've not seen the show before, can you just tell us a little bit about the format of it and why you think it's so popular? Why people keep coming back time and time again?
Well, the format of the show is that it's mostly songs, and we chat in between about the songs, what's coming up, and about our lives, a little bit about our lives, and the patter's quite fun and funny. We're not stand-up comedians, but what we can do is make you laugh in the songs, and so there's a wide range of songs and song styles, so that even if you didn't enjoy the third song, you'll enjoy the fourth. And we sing in harmony. We are blessed to have the wonderful Liza Pulman and her absolutely glorious voice. And she sings like a linnet. She was actually at Glyndebourne for 3 years as a junior soprano. She doesn't really sing like an opera singer. She just sings beautifully. She's a voice a bit like Barbara Streisand at times, and at other times like just sort of wonderfully light soprano voice. Really pretty.
I think you're all super talented, and you've all got that kind of a theatrical type of voice. So if you're into musical theatre and that kind of genre, then you've got the right people on stage in front of you as well. But what I love about it is the chemistry between all three of you. You really kind of work really well. Now, it's not the same lineup from nearly 40 years ago when you first started, but how long have you three been together, and how, in comparison with like the different lineups you've had, do you think this one is in terms of how it's gelled?
This one has been for me the magic lineup. We had great lineups before. We had great sopranos working for us. However, there's something that Liza brings to the show, which is she gets the writing. She understands why we write. She writes. She contributes quite a bit now to the writing, and that, which is great because it means we all own the material. And she really kind of gets it, and she acts as sort of great glue between Adele and I, who are, in many ways completely sick of one another.
I'm sure you're not. Hey,
I always say I see more of Adele than I see of my partner. We've worked together for 38 years. That's a long time. And you get to know each other's weaknesses and foibles and things like that. But you also know each other's strengths. And so that's the one thing that's been fantastic, is that having the same lineup for a long time has really given us courage to do things we might not have done otherwise, musical styles and things like that.
And Dillie, I just wanted to say, obviously, it has been challenging for the last 18 months. You've not been able to perform in front of anybody. But how have you managed to rehearse and then put together a show that's got, was it about 37 dates just this year alone? I mean, what all the work you must have put in behind the scenes.
Well, what it is we haven't obviously rehearsed very much at all. We're rehearsing at the moment. What we did was we did a newish sort of show with new numbers and some old numbers, which we always drag back because people won't let us go without hearing a few of the old numbers. And we did that Christmas 2019 into January 2020 at the South Bank at the Queen Elizabeth Hall. Then we took a couple of weeks off holiday, and then we went off on tour with that show. Now, we then obviously, March 15th, I think, was our last gig because we had to cancel because of COVID. And we had to cancel the last 13 dates. So what we've done is pick that old show up and look at it really, really carefully, because the one thing you can't do is pick up a show that's 18 months old and just go out there and do it, because COVID's happened and all sorts of other political things have happened and social things have happened. And so we've taken about 5 songs out and replaced them with other things. You sort of think, well, that's a song for then, but this doesn't suit now. So we analyze very carefully, and quite a lot of that has been done by email and Zoom. And then about 3.5 weeks ago, we went down to Cornwall to stay with Liza, that's Adele and I, in her lovely home there, which she lives with her husband. And we spent 6 days at the Rock Face writing stuff. We wrote a couple of new songs. And we then decided we went through the songs with a fine-tooth comb and thought, that's out of date, that's out of date, that's out of date. And we had to rewrite those bits. And then at the end of the week, we kind of took another week's break from one another, and we started rehearsal on Monday.
So it's all very, very relevant, isn't it? And I just wondered, obviously, like, we've had awful world news this week, and I suppose you do like to remain topical. So will you be adding things on the tour during the next 12 months? Yes,
we always rewrite. We rewrite as we go. There'll be a moment when a certain line will stick out like a sore thumb, and we'll go, do you think we ought to rewrite that for tomorrow? And, we will. And we've got a little section in the show called the Bulgarian Song Cycle, which is sort of fake Bulgarian songs. And they're very, very short. They're just little sort of 2 or 4 line songs. And they sum up the kind of things that are happening that week, or that even sometimes that day.
Some of it could actually be written that day and performed for the first time that night, could it? That's how different each show can be.
Absolutely. For instance, if it was today, Lawrence Fox and his latest Twitter outburst would definitely be on the list of things that we would put in.
And the other thing I've got to ask you about is, like I said, we are a family audience, so I've got to be a bit careful here. But
I will be careful.
but I think that the fact is, you know, that we've got three charming, beautiful women on stage in their best frocks, and then suddenly we hear this kind of potty mouth kind of language coming out, and it is quite endearing. But I mean, did you always decide from the off that that was going to be it? Is that who you really are?
That's who I am, certainly, yes. I am so potty mouth. I grew up in Portsmouth with sailors, you know, that's, you know, so my poor mother and father, they were very respectable people. They despaired of me.
Well, I guess with a name like Dillie Keane, there's got to be an Irish background and the Catholic upbringing there. There's got to be.
My dad was an Irish doctor, and mum played the doctor's wife, you know. So
did they actually see you become a superstar on stage? Did they actually come and see you? And did they see what you turned out to be?
Well, thank you for the word superstar, but when I get recognised in Tesco, I'll begin to believe that. They did see me on stage. I'm not sure my dad really enjoyed it. He was always very polite about it. Mum enjoyed bits of it hugely and was bitterly ashamed at other bits.
But I also, just before we finish, I just want you to remind everybody as well that you've all had incredible solo careers, haven't you? I think you've even been on Broadway, Dillie. Am I right?
Off Broadway, yeah.
That's near enough for me.
Yeah, off Broadway is quite respectable. Yes. Yeah, I had good fun there. Did a run at the theatre, which is called 59. It's 59. And I had great fun there. Lovely.
And what were you doing there? Was that a one-woman show?
I did a show which I called Hello Dillie.
Fantastic. And what about Liza and Adele? They've had individual careers as well.
They do. Liza's done several shows. She now works with a band, and she's done a show called Liza Pulman Sings Barbara Streisand. And Adele does shows. She and I both work individually at places like the Pheasantry and Crazy Cocks in London, which is great for our just, you know, exercising those muscles. You get away from each other, and we get to sort of explore other dynamics in our performance.
And will you still be doing individual solo things going forward as well? Or is it all now about, it is it? You're going to be doing other things?
I'm doing a couple of solo shows at the Pheasantry at the end of November, and I'm doing a Christmas show with a singer called Barb Younger at the Electric in Guildford at Christmas. So that sounds, I mean, to my mind, that's good for me. Again, I have to learn a whole load of songs, and it's just, you know, good. Got to keep, you know, as you get older, you've got to keep the muscles working.
You do. Well, look, thank you for joining me today. Thanks for telling everybody about what's coming. Just as a final point, I'd just like you just to remind everybody again about a little bit about people who are unfamiliar, what Fascinating Aida is, what it's about, and why they should come and see this fantastic show.
Fascinating Aida is three women and a wonderful guy on the piano who's joined us for this show called Michael Ralston. We sing, we do things that are slightly age-defying. We have no sense of our own age or what we should be doing. No sense of needing to retire. We sing quite well, and we sing songs of great filth, humor, humanity. Social, topical, satirical. There's something in it for everybody. And yes, I mean, for old girls, we're really quite modern. I was the one who insisted on putting cheap flights onto YouTube, and people saying, "Well, yeah, will it do anything?" I went, "Yeah, it's fine. And it went to 1 million views in a month, which was very exciting.
Wow.
And then we've also, I think, invented the idea of the online program, because I'm a bit of an eco warrior. I've got an eco blog, which has a name. I'm going to spell it SH1T. You don't need, because I know this is a family program. And one of the things that always used to sort of sadden me was I like to produce a program, but then you don't sell some, and then you carting around boxes, and there's yet more waste paper, yet more trees being cut down. So we invented the online program. So we have yet to update our online program, but it is out there. Oh yes, look, there it is, and it's it's free. That's the great thing. It's completely free. People don't have to pay a lot of money for it, and no trees got cut down. And I think that is a very good thing. One of my favorite plaudits ever came years ago when we were at the King's Theatre in Aberdeen, and the then owner of the King's, one of the Donald brothers, said, you have the most extraordinary audience. You've got old, you've got young, you've rich, you've poor, you have intellectuals, and you've country bumpkins. I've never seen an audience like it. Fantastic. And that's the thing. It's kind of, there's something humane about what we do. We poke fun at the things you all think we should poke fun at. Come and see it.
Dillie, that's absolutely wonderful. You've really got me in the mood. I can't wait to come and see you guys. You'll be playing dates all up and down the country, and we're going to put all them on screen and let people see where they can get them and where they can get the tickets. Dillie, thank you ever so much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you. Can't wait. Can't wait.